Over the years, I have tried quite a few different language learning resources. Some of them I used for a few weeks, some for a few months, and some I completely forgot about. But there's one app that has always stayed part of my language learning. Not because it's perfect, not because it's the most exciting, but because no matter how much my learning changes, it always seems to fit. That app is Anki. So today I want to explain why Anki is the only language learning app that I've consistently came back to over the years. One thing that has changed a lot over the years is how I learn languages. When I restarted Spanish, I started reading much more than before. I also spent much more time immersing myself in the language instead of only working through exercises. Japanese looks completely different. There I still use more structured learning materials because the language itself is so different from the ones I already know. Even my study time changes depending on work and life. Some weeks I study a lot. Other weeks I only manage a few minutes a day. But through all those changes, Anki has always stayed. The first reason is actually very simple. Anki fits into almost every day, even if I only have 10 minutes. I don't need to prepare anything. I don't need to decide what to study. I simply open the app and start reviewing my cards. Especially during busy periods at work, that makes it much easier to stay connected with my languages. Another reason I keep coming back to Anki is that I decide exactly what goes into my decks. I'm not limited to somebody else's vocabulary list. If I find a useful word while reading, I can add it. If I want to remember a sentence, I can add it. If I want to practice Japanese vocabulary, I can create cards for that too. But I don't always create every card myself. Sometimes I download shared decks from other learners. Sometimes I use them exactly as they are. And sometimes I modify them to better fit the way I want to learn. One situation where I especially like using shared decks is before I start reading a book that's a bit above my current level. If there's already a deck for that book, I will often work through it first. That way I already know some of the vocabulary before I start reading, which makes the book much easier to follow. And sometimes I only realize after a few chapters that a book is still too difficult for me. In that case, I will look for a shared deck, learn some of the vocabulary first and then continue reading. I really like that flexibility. Whether I want to build my own deck, use a shared one, or combine both, Anki lets me adapt it to what I need at that moment. One thing I want to mention is that I don't think Anki teaches me a language by itself. Reading teaches me new words. Listening exposes me to natural language. Videos, books, and other resources all help me improve. For me, Anki is there to support those activities. It helps me remember things that I would otherwise probably forget. Instead of replacing immersion, it works alongside it. Another thing I like is that Anki grows together with my learning. When I was at a different stage, my cards looked different. As my learning changes, my cards change too. The app doesn't force me into one specific method. I can adapt it to whatever I'm currently working on. And I think that's one of the reasons I've never really stopped using it. Now, that doesn't mean Anki is perfect. Honestly, it's probably one of the least exciting parts of my study routine. If Anki was the only thing I did for language learning, I think I would get bored pretty quickly. I still enjoy reading, watching videos, working through other resources. Those things are much more enjoyable for me. But because Anki supports those activities instead of replacing them, it continues to earn its place in my routine. Looking back, I've changed almost everything about the way I learn languages. My routines changed, my goals changed, the resources I used changed, but Anki has always stayed. Not because it's a perfect app, but because it continues to fit into the way I learn. So now I'm curious. Is there one language learning resource that you have kept using for years? Or do you enjoy trying new methods and new apps? Let me know in the comments.